with my own health struggles, I realized preventative medicine is equally important because the facts are that 90% of Europeans will die from chronic disease, and 80% of these diseases are preventable through nutrition and lifestyle.
I mean, that's stunning if you look at the facts and figures
Yeah.
of these statistics. That's
Yeah.
breathtaking. So we should definitely take some action. Hey, hey, lovely people. Welcome to the Holistic Health Podcast by Kung Wellness and Ladies Drive. And you know by now, holistic health means everything that makes you happy and healthy. And let me introduce you today to my guest, Dr. Vanessa Craig. She's Australian. She's the founder of Formetta, and she is just an amazing person. And you will know very soon why I'm saying that. Vanessa Craig began her studies at University at Sydney, where she completed a bachelor in molecular biology and genetics. She graduated summa cum laude with a PhD in molecular oncology from University of Zurich, where she also patented 2 targeted cancer therapies. Yes. At Novartis Institute of Biomedical Research, Vanessa was awarded a fellowship to continue her research in epigenetics. You may have heard that in our podcast already, but we will explain it in detail what it means, epigenetics. And through her own personal struggle with health, she became interested in how nutrition, among other lifestyle factors, impacts our health and longevity. She studied nutrition science at Stanford University to sharpen her knowledge further and gain a more holistic understanding of the interplay between nutrition, aging, and overall health. Welcome to the Holistic Health Podcast, Vanessa.
Thank you so much. I'm
wow,
so excited
what
to
a
be here.
CV. I never had to introduce one of my guests with such so many words and such a long intro, but I thought it's important so the audience knows to whom we're talking about and how much you did to arrive at that point where you founded Formetta, right?
Yes, and I continue to learn. So that's
yes.
always an ongoing
Hopefully.
process, right? So, yes, I've had a long research career and I've done a lot of studies, but this is still ongoing. There's still so much to learn. It's such an exciting field.
Mm-hmm. Let's start in Australia, where you're born and raised.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it before, you had a personal struggle with health.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit what happened?
Well, it's multifold, actually, because so during my childhood, I suffered from malnourishment, which then can, of course, impact your health much later. So when you think of bone health, these kinds of things, that's why I'm very passionate about childhood nutrition as well. And I've been able to express
Why have
this
you
with-
been malnutritioned?
So I had eating disorders caused by traumatic events in my childhood, very early childhood. So it was very early on during development. Very unfortunate, and of course had a lot of health ramifications later on. And that's why I was extra motivated to really understand what could work to not only improve health but also reverse certain conditions that I had already developed in my early 20s. And so I, for example, that's why my PhD, I became very passionate in chronic inflammation. And even though this was in the context of cancer research, trying to find therapies, gradually, with my own health struggles, I realized preventative medicine is equally important because the facts are that 90% of Europeans will die from chronic disease, and 80% of these diseases are preventable through nutrition and lifestyle.
I mean, that's stunning if you look at the facts and figures
Yeah.
of these statistics. That's
Yeah.
breathtaking. So we should definitely take some action.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we accept that by the time you're 60, usually everyone has a chronic disease, whether it's high blood pressure, osteoporosis, things that we simply accept are normal.
Because we think it's a default mode, something like that.
It's normalized. I mean, aging is normal.
Yes.
But I truly believe we can age better. We can stave off chronic disease. So we can live a longer, more healthful life. I'm not on this bandwagon of the very popular longevity bandwagon where we should live forever, these kind of notions.
Like this reverse aging, I just wrote that down because I just saw a Netflix documentary about it, about how you can reverse aging. Is that technically possible?
Yes, so to a certain extent, as you can improve. Yeah, I mean, you can, but again, it's all very experimental at this stage. By how many years? It's too hard to say. And this goal of living forever, I don't really think that should be our goal. I think if you look at the people behind this movement, it's men in midlife crises who are simply coming from the biotech sector that want to live forever. I think there's an ego thing there. Whereas I think for women, we certainly want to slow down the aging process, be less of a burden on society. You know, there's a humanistic element there. It doesn't have to be all selfish and simply
or staying independent. I think that's a big thing.
And
if you pin it down,
that?
Right?
And
it's about being independent.
Yes.
I think the moment you become sick, no matter how old you are, and you become dependent on somebody or on something, on a medication or whatever, once you realize that you're dependent, that creates so much of a stress within us. And to prevent getting there in the first place, I think that's something that should drive us, right?
I think so too. And really, you should be in charge of your own health. No one's going to understand your body as well as you do, to a certain degree.
We're so individual. And
we're so individual.
When we look at also the blue zones, longevity, right? We see some parallels, but we also see that there are regional differences. And at the end, you and me, we're both women, right? We have the same chromosomes, but we are both Homo sapiens, but we are so different, right?
Yeah.
And we should respect and acknowledge that.
Yeah. There's no one size fits all. If we're talking about aging well or this longevity approach. So it's a complex topic, that's for sure.
How old do you want to become? Do you have an image that you want to celebrate your 120th birthday?
I don't have a number. It's more I want to be able to spend time with my kids, you know, like that's the aim, but also to be mobile for as long as possible, to not have to compromise the things that I love doing, you know, travel, adventure, these kinds of things, sport. That's more important. So no, I don't have a number in mind at all. But really just living without disease that can really impact your lifestyle.
Healthy.
Yeah, the quality of life. Exactly. Die healthy. That's the goal.
That's the goal. The ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your research. I mentioned that before, epigenetics. Maybe let's just in a nutshell explain quickly what is epigenetics.
It's really just the study of how the environment affects the genes. That's really it. So, and that's why it's a very broad field. And, you know, I was studying at the molecular level where we look at the methylation of genes, which are being turned on and off by certain factors. And therefore, you can see how nutrition and lifestyle can play a huge role in your health. That I think for a long time we thought genes were the be-all and end-all and the main influence on our health. For sure, they have a big influence, but
not that much as we might have thought.
Exactly. A lot is in our control, and that's what people should be very hopeful for.
I read several books about epigenetics as well. I'm not pro, so you please correct me if I'm wrong, but I read from Vanessa Craig, a very amazing book about epigenetics. I just can recommend it if you want to dive into that whole field in epigenetics. And she said that even malnutrition or traumas are passed on through the epigenetic effect from one generation to the other. And you see the effects even in the third generation after an incident happened.
Yes.
Can you explain how does that work? Why is trauma or something like malnutrition passed on into 1 or 2 or 3 generations?
Again, it shows you how powerful the stress response is in our body and its ability to regulate gene expression, which then can be carried on to the next generation. This is quite a new field though, and we're still trying to understand the whole mechanism, but it does seem to be passed on from one generation to another and have health effects, yeah.
You mentioned you had malnutrition as a teenager or as a child. Do you see effects in the next generation, so with your kids?
Oh, yes, and something I worry about, of course. No, I was very healthy during pregnancy. I'm hoping that compensated for anything, but it's too early to tell. I'm not sure. Maybe we will see. Yeah, and it's very hard to measure as well. Mm-hmm. I think these studies on, I was studying epigenetics in the context of chronic disease, so not psychological trauma. This is, of course, a very different field where it's measured very differently. So this I can't really comment on. But let's see, my kids are quite young. They're 7 and 10. And whether I've passed on my trauma to them. But to be honest, everyone has their own trauma.
Oh, yes, we all have.
It's unfortunately very common. So it is a very hard thing to be able to study, I believe.
Absolutely.
I mean, I needed to have twins, probably.
Yeah, we could have studies. This amazing epigenetical twin study.
Right? That was, as a scientist, that's my dream. But no, I didn't have twins. And I'm not having any more children to really flesh out the personal study.
So then let's focus on Formetta. Mm-hmm. You have been as I said, you patented 2 targeted cancer therapies. You have been in research fields all the time. Why did you take the decision to create your own company and to found Formetta in the first place?
Yeah, it was.
What led to this company?
So I never intended to start a company. Anyone who has known me in my research career would be, I was very academically focused. I'm still not, I don't call myself an entrepreneur, but how it happened is that I started collagen research, again, because of my curiosity to age well. I'd reached my 30s. I had already had my first child. And I wanted to improve these chronic conditions I was having. And so I really dug into the research to understand what truly works, because I found this wasn't reflected on the supplement shelves. I wanted to see what would work through nutrition, I would say, without other medical interventions. And I landed on collagen research because I was very impressed with the clinical data with certain peptides, and then went from there. And then, of course, as a guinea pig, tried it on myself. And then because I was leading a nutrition program and a longevity program, I then also had a lot of clients who wanted a high-quality collagen formula as well. But yes, the problem was I couldn't buy it myself. So I was making it myself.
Why you couldn't buy it?
I didn't like the products that were on the shelf. So it was either they weren't having these clinical peptides, which were going to have an effect. We can explain later why that's so important. Not all collagen products are created equal. Not all collagen is effective. But then also the co-ingredients. I became very picky, right? Especially when you have something you're wanting to heal, or if you're going through chemo or you're pregnant or breastfeeding, you have to be even more pedantic about, okay, there's like sugar in there or there's artificial sweeteners. You become very picky. And I saw a lot of supplements, and not just collagen supplements, simply formulated wrong with the wrong dose. So you're wasting your money. You're not actually going to achieve effect with a too low a dose. And the co-ingredients were often nonsensical, so containing sugar, or which is, of course, contributing to chronic inflammation. It breaks down collagen. It has no place in a anti-aging supplement, if we want to call it that, or preservatives, or even artificial sweeteners. I simply wanted something I know clean is probably not the best word. It's a bit overused, but then also understanding how to build collagen in the body. I found that the formulas were not advanced enough. So basically what you need bioactive peptides, meaning they will specifically interact with collagen-producing cells. Peptides, I don't know, do you know what a peptide is? Peptides.
Maybe you explain it. Maybe our
Sure.
listeners, our viewers don't know. And also, please, let's dive into what is a collagen, because we have it in our body.
Yes.
That's something our body produces. What is it and where is it in our body? Let's start with that.
So yes, exactly. I got too excited with the research. I forgot to explain what collagen even is. Because collagen is really at the crux of aging. And collagen is a protein. It's the most abundant protein in our body, makes up 30% of the protein in our body. And it is everywhere. So a lot of people associate collagen just with the skin, because it is 75% of our skin is collagen. But people don't realize it's 90% of our bone organic matrix. It makes up a huge percentage of tendons, cartilage, but it's also in our eyeballs, it's in our gut.
I just wanted to mention the gut,
our blood vessels.
All the organs, heart.
Yes. It's really everywhere. It's everywhere. So without it, we are...
In the brain?
It would be there in membranes for sure. So yes, it's everywhere. The whole body needs collagen. And so it is this scaffolding protein, but it is more than that. It's like a lot of people think of, for example, bone just as a frame, but bone is incredibly alive. It is constantly communicating to our body. So collagen is very important, and we start losing collagen. So we have peak collagen in our early 20s.
Oh,
and then it
already?
starts, surprise. And then it starts to decline. And that's reflected in how we look, of course. That's why we start getting the sagging skin, but also how we feel. That's why we start getting the aches and pains, the joint issues.
That's all because of because collagen degrades in our body?
Yeah, definitely the main reason, because chronic inflammation contributes to that, of course, too, but chronic inflammation is then degrading the collagen. So it's for sure the main reason why we have these telltale signs of aging. And so there is a way to boost collagen production in our body through nutrition. And unfortunately, historically, we used to in our diet, the Western diet that we have, the European diet, but now it's very collagen deficient, our diet. So collagen...
What is lacking? What do we not eat anymore?
Exactly. So collagen-rich foods only come from animals. Plants do not make collagen. You cannot build collagen with plant-based food because plants do not make collagen, if that makes sense. So, of course, vitamin C, all these things are important for collagen production, but they lack the peptides, for example, that will actually activate collagen-producing cells. So all animals have collagen, but it's not in the things that we tend to eat, like the lean meats, right? It's in the skin, it's in the bones, it's in that gelatinous kind of meats that we don't eat much anymore. From time to time,
in China, people think that meat that is on a bone is of a better quality than the lean ones that we in Europe love to eat, or in Western worlds used to eat. That's a very amazing difference, cultural difference.
And they absolutely have value collagen-rich foods because they know about the link, right? They're not. It's not just because it's tasty, but as you said, they know the health properties.
Bone broth,
chicken soup is highly enjoyed in a lot of cultures, but we have lost that to a certain respect. Of course, I think bone marrow was having a moment again, but it's not typically eaten on a daily basis, these foods, and therefore we are very collagen deficient.
And because of that, we have this lack of collagen.
Yeah.
What are collagen-rich foods?
So animal skin. So when you're eating, a chicken thigh or something, the skin, is typically eaten, but we tend to eat the chicken breast, and that's lean meat. bone broth is probably one of the best examples. I don't think people here eat chicken feet and all these things that are typically consumed. But gelatin-based foods as well. I think there are some gelatin-based foods that are still consumed here, but yeah, it's not so typical.
And do I understand you correctly? If we would eat the food that contains collagen, natural collagens, we would not need any supplements like your Formetta products.
Yeah, you would definitely have a healthier collagen level in your body, but there have been studies showing that collagen peptides are more effective because you're simply getting more concentrated source. So, for example, even if you're having a cup of bone broth a day, it's not enough. It's not enough. It really depends what you're trying to achieve. So we know you can have more of an effect with collagen peptides, but for sure you're also having an effect with collagen-rich foods. You're definitely benefiting your body, but it's hard to say. I argue that the collagen peptides are better, but we should still be eating collagen-rich foods. I think we should be doing both, but without the supplements, for sure, focus on collagen-rich foods. I just think it's quite difficult to do this regularly.
But with all that you know, with all the wisdom, all the knowledge you have, would you say that getting a natural source of collagen in your food is healthier than eating a supplement?
Certain supplements I think you're wasting your time with. With the Formetta supplement, I don't think it's better. Yeah. I don't think you could say that having a cup of bone broth is better than taking a Formetta per day. And I can explain why in our formula, because we have mimicked the food matrix very well, and it is a more powerful formula, than having bone broth.
So I interrupted you before because you were trying to share a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey with Formetta. So please share more with us. How did everything start, and how long did it take you until you had a first product? A ready product.
So I think I was at the stage of explaining the peptides, and then I got sidetracked because I love talking about peptides. Because in our formula, we have these very powerful peptides. They're patented, they're bioactive, and these are the signaling molecules that then reach the collagen-producing cells and then increase their metabolism, because our collagen-producing cells have become less and less active, and we need to wake them up essentially. And it's a lock and key mechanism. These peptides fit beautifully with this receptor on the surface of the cell. This has all been shown, published, and this activates them. But then you need to make the collagen.
Is it shown in vitro or in vivo?
Both.
Both.
No, both. And we have, so that's the first step, is the stimulation with the peptides. But then, so the cells are ready to make collagen. So that's why in the formula we have everything needed for production. And collagen production is quite a complex process. This is a big molecule. We need amino acids. We need vitamin C, things like selenium, zinc, copper, all these minerals that are involved as well. And that's why we also have that in our formula. But then you've made the collagen, but you need to protect the collagen. And this is actually a very important part, often overlooked. Because every day, like constantly while we're sitting here, our body is fighting off what we call collagen killers. You know, there's UV for one, chronic inflammation. It's a natural part of the aging process that our collagen production is being outweighed by collagen breakdown. And we're trying to tip the balance the other way. So there's a lot of things that break down collagen in the body, and there are ways through nutrition to inhibit those certain compounds. We know that either reduce chronic inflammation, making it a nicer environment for the collagen, or actually inhibit enzymes that specifically break down collagen. These are compounds such as CoQ10, MSM, which is also in the formula, and grapeseed extract. And so that's why we call this a very advanced clinical formula, because they're all in clinical doses, meaning you will achieve an effect that has been proven in human clinical trials. So we say there's 3 steps And that's why it's a very holistic formula, unlike a lot of other collagen supplements, which they just slap collagen on the product, but then are they bioactive? Are they just amino acids? They don't have to show this. And this is very unnerving with supplements that...
But when you're not a pro, you can not tell.
Absolutely not. But that's
no clue about it.
That's exactly why people need to be quite savvy and understand how to look at their research. If they're saying there's studies, if they're saying that, which they can say, anyone you can really get away.
They can pretend a lot, right?
You can get away with a lot. We've seen supplements use our studies, even though they're not using the peptides. So it's very tricky. But this is why you're important, because you're spreading awareness that people really...
is that not regulated or by law or protected?
No, supplement industry is not well regulated. You can really get away with a lot in terms of marketing terms, and a lot of companies lean on this heavily. Even by using the word clinical or natural, you can really throw around a lot of...
Natural can mean almost everything.
It can almost, and we feel the same when we are formulating our own ads and ways of communicating. Often these words are so overused. It's really hard to actually stand out and to help people understand what will work. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of overused terms.
And there's a lot of buzz around collagen, but also many misconceptions. Can you share a little bit? What are the misconceptions that you see out there?
There are many. So we could start with one that I saw today, actually, on Instagram, is that a lady was confused but I heard she said that the collagen doesn't even go where you want it to go anyway. And that's a very hard statement to rectify. But what she's saying is that, and indeed it's true, because a lot of collagen products aren't proven to be bioactive, or they haven't proven in preclinical studies to reach the target cells. And so therefore I can't talk about other collagen products, but indeed for ours, I can tell her that yes, we have shown that we absorb in our small intestine, it is rapidly absorbed, because that's another misconception, that you don't actually absorb the peptides. The collagen molecule is simply too big to be absorbed on its own, and so it is broken down. And that's why we have peptides. Peptides are fragmented parts of the protein, but we have very specific peptides, and these are absorbed. We've proven that it's in the bloodstream and that they go to the target cells. So we can safely say that it is absorbed and that it reaches the target cells where you want it to go. And so that's definitely a myth for our collagen. And then I would say the vegan collagen is quite a myth, because as we talked about, you can't get it's an oxymoron, actually, because plants don't make collagen. And so what companies try to sell you is vegan, in quotation marks, collagen. They call them boosters, so collagen boosters or collagen activators.
So algae don't have?
No.
Not even algae?
Not even algae. So if you're a vegan, you can pretty much substitute anything, right? You've got plant-based iron, omegas. You can find the B vitamins everywhere, but with collagen, no. There is simply no plants that make it. They are synthesizing genetically modified collagen through bacteria, and this is now available for skincare products, but not for human consumption. So we would probably have to wait still quite a while until there is something available for very strict vegans. I implore them to make an exception. Even Brian Johnson makes an exception. He has a vegan diet, but he takes collagen peptides, the same patented peptides we have in our formula, because yes, otherwise vegans will be even more collagen deficient. So Unfortunately,
but
there's no way around
what they say
it.
is that, for instance, specific herbs or algae create kind of a setup in the body that allows the body to make its own collagen. At least that's what I understood.
Yes. So what that is providing the building blocks.
Okay.
And that's what I said. You can have, and that's what the vegan activators and boosters are. They're a mixture of amino acids, vitamin C, antioxidants.
But is that true that they create the setup?
No, they don't stimulate the collagen producing cells.
They do not.
No. So you can't actually increase collagen production, but you've got the building blocks there for when the cells want to make collagen. You understand? But they're still declining in their activity. So you're still not going to be you're still not getting that collagen boosting effect that you would get from peptides.
Okay, get it.
Is that clear?
Yeah,
I think that's
for me,
definitely
that's clear.
something that confuses a lot of people. So I'm glad that we're talking about it. And and that's why vegan collagen, you should just take a protein powder. You're able to provide the building blocks, but not actually the stimulus for the cells. If you really want to increase your collagen production.
So with Formetta, you have an advanced daily collagen supplement, and you always say quality matches. But what should consumers look for when you're not a pro, when you don't understand what's written there on the packaging? So
I mean, I really feel sorry for consumers because it's very hard because they make it very difficult. It's marketing really
So even for you
you
as a pro?
No, not for me, but for people without a research background that can really sift through all these marketing terms and beautiful packaging and marketing speak. I mean,
but how
it's
can
difficult.
we see if it's a high quality collagen or a low quality collagen? For instance, let's start basic with the
we can
basics.
start with collagen, but this can also apply to all other supplements. You need to understand what is the most bioavailable form, right? Bioavailability is a big one. And then because, for example, CoQ10, a lot of people don't, there's two different forms of CoQ10. There's the one that's cheap and not very bioavailable, and this is in 99% of supplements. And then there's the expensive one, which is very bioavailable, and we even have a patented one making it even more bioavailable. And this is not easily found because it's more expensive. So I don't mean just go for the expensive CoQ10 because that's really not.
No.
So definitely don't just go for the more expensive supplement, but look for the most bioavailable form. That will take a bit of...
How can we see that?
You would have to Google what's the most bioavailable form for sure for each ingredient. Because they usually should say CoQ10, ubiquinone, CoQ10, ubiquinol. For us, you can see that it is a patented CoQ10. So you can, but a lot just say CoQ10. And if it just says CoQ10, that's not enough for me. And then you can either write to the company or you just forget it. You go for something that is obviously already shown on the packaging because it is expensive and usually they would want to say that, that they're using.
Okay, get it.
And then
because
the dose.
bioavailability is a big thing. And I have seen supplements where they state, it's highly bioavailable. But at the end of the day, you have no clue.
No, you have to do your own homework.
We have to make an educated guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Google it before we buy it.
Or lean on an expert that you trust. I mean, unfortunately, that definitely makes life easier because otherwise it's a lot of homework. And I think people just throw their hands up in the air and don't bother, and I can understand that. But that is why we are trying to build a company that people can just trust, and that takes a lot of guesswork out and a lot of frustration.
So you give your consumers, your customers, access to the research that you have done?
Yeah.
We can find that on your website, for instance?
We have a whole research page for all of our ingredients. And so the bioavailability is a big factor, and then the dosage. And again, how would a layman know what the right dose is of certain compounds, especially collagen? I mean, we have 12.5 grams of collagen, right? Which makes it effective for skin, joint, and bone. So we can claim that. But I've seen very popular collagen on the market with 0.05 grams of collagen and then of non-proven bioactive collagen to boot. So that for sure you need to be aware of, that there is the right dose for everything, right?
Can you overdose collagen?
No.
Not really?
No. I mean, it's a protein, so
The body would get rid of it?
The body wouldn't. You just have a lot of stomach discomfort before anything else. It's like overeating eggs or something, you would just, no. And you could easily take 50 grams or so before you would have issues. But no, it's very, very safe. So that's the thing. We have over 30 years of preclinical, clinical research with our peptides. It's very safe, tested for heavy metals and toxins. That's something that also should be shown, and it's not regulated.
Why isn't it regulated? I don't get it.
I don't know. I mean, it's really in the hands of consumers, and we know that a lot of collagen is contaminated with heavy metals. And, for example, collagen is so beneficial during pregnancy and breastfeeding where for example, you're losing a lot of collagen, you're losing a lot of bone. So I definitely took it when I was pregnant and breastfeeding. So, and that's when you're really susceptible to heavy metals, your unborn child. But regardless, even if you're not, it's super important. This is something you're taking daily, and it's not regulated. So the company really has to state, we test for heavy metals and toxins.
So we need to watch out for that as well.
Yeah, try and look for that as well. Mm-hmm. If you need halal kosher, that's also something that you can look for as well. But yeah, I think those are the main factors you should look for. Where is it made as well? That might be important for you. Transparency is so important for a company, and also, like you said, that the research, you see it on their website, but then you look also, what kind of studies are these? Are these published, or are these just company studies?
Do they just pretend that they've done something?
A lot of them just do consumer surveys. They give their product for free to
20 people,
and then they say 80% were satisfied.
Yes, that's
80%
always very interesting. Also, if you look at the beauty industry, like anti-aging products, you see that a lot. And if you look at it's in very tiny font.
And the fine print,
look
exactly.
it up, it's a fine print, and then you see oh, okay, only 40 people or 50 people or maybe 80.
And were they men? Were they women? How old were they? I mean, we've tested. So these peptides have been tested from 18-year-olds to 80, predominantly women, but also men, sick, healthy. You need everything tested. It can't
you need a big group.
But again, that's something that's so hard for people to find often. And
you also did the placebo.
And they need to be placebo double. It needs to be real clinical trials with large cohorts of people,
and you
not
did
just 20
all
people.
Of that with Formetta.
So with the skin studies, these were done in over 100 women, aged 35 to 65. The bone studies, 130 postmenopausal women. So the joint studies in men and women, like I said, 18 to 80, people with arthritis, athletes. Yeah. It's very broadly tested, and that's important, and not a given with most supplements, that's for sure.
Just given the fact that you have to do so many surveys and studies and research before you offer a ready product like Formetta, how many years did it take you?
Many years, yeah.
How many?
I founded the company in 2016. I don't know why I'm whispering like I'm embarrassed or something that it took so long. Don't tell anyone. No, I mean, that's when I started the research and became convinced, this needs to be done, this needs to be out there. But it took me so long from an R&D perspective to find the right producer, to find each of the best ingredients. And, I'll always, I'll always be improving the formula. If an extra peptide comes out but right now getting back on track. So in 2020, the first formula,
so
the first
4 years.
product was then launched. Exactly. And that was a very soft launch in COVID, actually, and then went from there. Then my business partner and I, Vanessa, we relaunched with new packaging, extra flavors. I really want to not let we really want everyone to be taking this, so trying to find different flavors for everyone. And this was last summer.
Mm-hmm. And you don't add sugar?
No, sugar's the enemy of collagen. We add a little bit of stevia and natural flavoring because of the very potent co-ingredients, purely because of that. And because we do also have a non-flavored version, which has pearl powder, which can remain unflavored. Pearl powder is very neutral tasting. So we just don't want anyone to have an excuse not to take it. So that's really where we.
And I've seen you take your own products and you add it to the coffee, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Because we met the other day and you said you added it to the coffee.
Yeah, and I now add cardamom to my coffee because you reminded me of how good it is. And I'm like, why have I not been doing this?
We forget.
And now
we're surrounded by healing herbs and healing spices.
Yes.
We forgot that knowledge as well.
Yeah.
But that's
so
a whole
cinnamon,
other story.
cardamom, and
it is.
Formetta are in my coffee.
And Formetta.
So yeah, I like having it in my coffee. And the pearl powder for me is so important because it's so rich in calcium, and I don't eat dairy, so and rich in minerals and amino acids. So it combines so nicely with the peptides to help collagen production.
So we told the audience before that Formetta is a daily collagen supplement. Mm-hmm. Why daily?
Because that's how it was clinically tested. So I can't tell you if taking it every second day is going to have the same effect as taking it daily. I have to be completely honest with that.
And do I need to take it continuously?
We recommend taking it for at least 3 months.
Because from business perspective, that's a smart move.
It turns out to be a good business model, but really that's just what the research says. So taking it for 3 months, 12 weeks, you're going to have the best effect. Skin studies already after 8 weeks, joint studies after 3 months, bone studies best 12 months. It's best to keep going. I understand people need breaks or might want breaks, and that's okay. Washout experiments have shown that the results will last for a few weeks, but as I mentioned, our collagen is breaking down. So if you want to keep improving that, then it's best to keep taking it. But again, don't be hard on yourself. If you want to have some weeks off, then that's fine.
My worries with taking something on a daily basis is always that I fear that my body gets used to the product and that it gets lame in producing the product itself.
Sure.
Like we see it with other supplements.
Yeah.
Is that the case with collagen as well?
Yeah, it's a very good question.
Do we have to fear that the body gets lame on doing the job done itself?
No, because certain supplements, for sure, you build up a tolerance. Right?
Like?
Adaptogens, for example. So ashwagandha, these kinds of supplements, people recommend to cycle them because the body does get used to them and they actually do need breaks. People don't realize that, and they're often sold as something you should be taking continuously.
It's the case also with a lot of vitamins in general, isn't it?
Not that many.
Like vitamin D, or isn't that you kind of kick it off a little bit in your body?
Yeah,
with
you can definitely be
supplements
seasonal with vitamin D, but you definitely have it with a lot of clinical drugs that you often build up tolerances for sure. But you have to think of it like nutrition. I mean, your body always wants healthy food, right? Your body doesn't build up. So, for example, if you want to liken it to muscles, for example, they'll always want protein. They're never going to be intolerant to protein. Or you have to, you know what I mean? So, and with collagen, you don't build up a tolerance, so you don't have to worry about that. Taking a break won't be advantageous. It's fine. But, yeah, you won't find that you're going to see less of effect as time goes on because your body's getting used to it. No, that's not the case.
I have heard that people who suffer from gut issues but also from skin rashes have a tremendous effect after taking several months of collagen supplements, just in general. So you tell us that it's good for literally everybody, no matter what kind of sickness you may have or issue you may have?
Yeah. So if you have a chronic disease, then that you're worried about introducing a new supplement, you should always talk with your doctor.
Sure.
Even if you're pregnant and breastfeeding, even though I said it's very beneficial, you should still talk with your doctor. We haven't found it being a problem for anyone's condition so far. If you're going through chemo, these kinds of things, of course, you have to be careful of what you're taking, and you should always consult your doctor. But generally, over the age of 25, you're going to benefit from it. Yeah.
Okay. So for everyone older than 25, that's a lot of people.
That's why we call it Formetta, for everyone. And I'm very careful with supplementation otherwise. I always think, look at your blood, look at your DNA, really understand what's going to work for you. Because for sure, I don't think everyone should be replacing food with supplements. Food is always first. But with collagen, I do make an exception.
Then let's spend a little bit of time to speak about topics beyond collagen. We can also talk about other lifestyles or dietary habits which are non-negotiable for optimal health. Can you share a little bit of your wisdom with us on that topic?
Sure. I think we probably concentrate too much about what we eat rather than how and when. These kinds of things I think should also be taken into account a lot. I think they are now. People are realizing.
We can eat healthy food, but when we're totally stressed out, it's not bioavailable in our body, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I for sure fall into that, eating too fast, eating at terrible times of the day, these kinds of things. I mean, I think above everything, above nutrition, above even movement, I think sleep is so important. And to really optimize sleep, you have to optimize those things anyway. So yeah, that's for sure should be prioritized. Yeah.
What's your top 3 tips for dietary habits, for healthy lifestyle? What can you share?
Okay, well then sleep for sure. Prioritizing sleep. And I'm not saying I'm nailing that at all. I have 2 kids and that is something I'm working on a lot. That's why I know it's important and it can make a big difference. So sleep optimization, good sleep hygiene, movement, daily movement, finding something you love. I don't think everyone should be stressing about what they're doing, but for sure we see that weight training is going to really benefit your bones and how you age. That's really important. And then my dietary approach is just to eat as nutrient dense as possible. What does that mean?
What are you eating?
Nutrient dense foods, and also that are again.
Meaning?
Reducing chronic inflammation. So I'm very much into a anti-inflammatory diet, which is really, it's all just the Mediterranean diet. No,
it's Mediterranean?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of olive oil, a lot of fresh food, very high quality meat product.
Food?
We live in Switzerland. We have the access to amazing food. Where I live in Zurich, more on the countryside, further down the lake, we have access to farms. We see where the animals are. We see where the chickens are. I mean, yeah, it's...
Eat regional, local.
Yeah.
What about spices and herbs?
I love my cinnamon and my cardamom in my coffee now. And yeah, I definitely embrace herbs seasonally. I like so many of them. So I find diversity is so key, and I find that's a really fun way to be diverse. You know, if we're really trying to, the philosophy is eating 30 different plant-based foods per week, and I find it quite easy when you love spices and herbs and so many different nuts and seeds and all that thing. I find that quite easy. You just really have to be a bit open-minded as well, and often... Yeah, I think nutrient dense and diversity are 2 things to really focus on. Yeah.
And is it true that our salads, for instance, don't have as many nutrients as they used to have?
Yeah, that's what studies have shown. Yeah, they have shown that. Again, I mean, have they done that study in Switzerland? No. These studies have done in the US. So I can't for sure say that the carrot your grandma was eating was more nutrient dense than the one we're eating now. But in the US, they can say that. So, yeah.
Okay. So just out there, be aware that most of these studies come from the US.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a different way of farming than we have in Switzerland.
I assume so. But
it's important just to share that with the audience.
I think
as well.
if you're worried about nutrient deficiencies, then testing is the way to go about it. If you don't think that your diet is meeting the needs, rather than relying on the fear-mongering sort of facts like that that's why you need to supplement, is because our food's no longer even nutritious, then get yourself tested. There's an easy answer. And then you
blood testing.
Get a blood test, see if you actually need more magnesium or certain B vitamins in your diet. Then you don't have to guess.
Let's speak about nuts and seeds for a while. What kind of nuts and seeds would you advise? Because they're super healthy, and also here, again, also with the spices and herbs, we tend to forget to add that on purpose to our food that we eat every day. Yeah. For instance, pepper. We forgot that how important piperine is, and how much benefits pepper has for us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then you think about things like turmeric, which are actually clinically proven. They add so much flavor, but yet clinically proven certain compounds of turmeric in combination with pepper, because it makes it more bioavailable. There's a reason why we combine them.
The pepper kind of transports the ingredients in our bloodstream and kind of dispatches us in the body, right?
Yeah, It makes it more bioavailable. So what was the question again? I was like, now I'm thinking about like curries and so the nuts and the seeds. Yes, so I have a lot of different nuts and seeds in my diet, and what I like to do is actually soak them and then dry them, and that actually makes the nutrients even more bioavailable and easier to digest. I love this.
In India, they do that a lot. Yes. That's another thing that we can learn.
That is an ancient thing we used to do. Yes. People used to do this with corn, and that's how they used to produce corn products, and that's why corn at one time was very nutritious, but then we stopped doing that, and then people actually got vitamin B deficiency because they weren't able to unlock all the nutrition in the corn, and it was such a staple. So how you prepare the nuts, seeds and grains and these kinds of things, that's why sprouting is so important, fermenting, these are really important processes that, of course, they just take time. And so I've used to dedicate a lot of time to activating my nuts and seeds, but now I found a company in Switzerland that you can buy them already activated, so I'm very happy because it is a lot of time and effort.
You need to share that company with us.
Yeah, I can do that. I'm one of their best customers. They have great cacao as well, and I love cacao.
What's the name of the company?
Naturkostbar. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
They're becoming more and more popular, and I love their activated walnuts and sunflower seeds, and they have activated buckwheat. They have a lot of cool products.
And it also helps if people have issues with digesting nuts.
Yes, which is what I had, and that's why I went to those lengths, because I was healing my gut. I don't know if I would have done it otherwise, because it is a lot of effort. But then that's how I realized, wow, actually, I feel so much better, because before I used to just sit like a stone in my belly. Yeah.
That's heavy. Yeah. So one last topic I want to discuss with you is intermittent fasting, because it's so huge out there. And they pretend that it's really good for literally everybody, no matter how old you are, as a man, as a woman, race, whatever. So I would love to hear your opinion on intermittent fasting.
I have a feeling we have the same opinion. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a cure-all, end-all for everything, and I think it has to be done on an individual basis. It's really not for everyone. And again, what does it even mean? Does it just mean you're having a 12-hour rest overnight, or does it mean you're going for 3 days on a water fast without food? It needs to be done with good guidance. If you're doing those kinds of fasts, that need to be done under medical supervision. Otherwise, so the very long fasts, I'm not a fan of, to be honest. I just think they're too extreme. I think they can lead to muscle loss, wasting. I think it's also not sustainable. no one wants to hang around a hangry person. So I think...
but that's mostly due to lack of sugar.
Yeah.
The hungry thing.
I think people realize that taking electrolytes, things like, and certain minerals during these fasting periods are going to be better. But again, I think women need to be careful.
Why?
I think we're now realizing that it can be too much stress on their bodies. And again, it just needs to be done on an individual basis. It doesn't work for everyone. A lot
Sometimes
of women...
it messes with your hormones.
How old you are. I think if you're post-menopause, it can be easier. If you're still having a cycle, then it can be a little bit more tricky. I just think maybe just don't even think about too much. Just have, 14-hour rest from food every day. That's sustainable. You don't have to, maybe don't even care on the weekend. I think sustainability is much more important than just these very experimental short-term fixes.
But people are looking for quick fixes and
well, if it's for weight loss, then there's Ozempic now, and that's obviously the go-to. And then you are fasting,
I'm not a big fan of all this stuff. I prefer to be in a place where you realize what it feels good.
Yeah,
and
to have your instincts.
To be in that place, it's a long way. It's a journey because we're not used anymore to feel what is good because we're so stressed out most of the time. We don't have time for recovery, for relaxation, for sleep, for sex, for whatever. Yeah. Everything needs to be quick, and we need to have a quick fix and a shortcut on everything. And life is not a shortcut.
Yeah.
It's always the long run. It's always slow and steady wins the race. That's my humble opinion.
And we're all told to eat the same food, regardless of our genetics, and it doesn't make sense.
It does not, no.
So you really have to be in tune with your own body, I think, and know what suits it. For sure, for me, fasting for 3 days, no thank you. But that's needs to be done individually.
Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom with us today. Loved to listen to you. Thank you for also sharing your entrepreneurial journey with us with Formetta. Thanks a million, Vanessa Craig, for inspiring us. Thank you for listening to our Holistic Health podcast by Ladies Drive and Kung Wellness. Check them out if you want wellness at your home space. Check out Kung Wellness and check out ladiesdrive.world if you want to learn more about Ladies Drive and what we are doing day in, day out. And stay tuned for the next episode of the Holistic Health podcasts. And remember, 8 hugs a day keeps the doctor away. Bye-bye and take care. Bye.